Lula and the Workers' Party, the PT Party, were the radical left party in Brazil who had started to emerge at the end of the dictatorship. They weren't that involved during the dictatorship, and they'd already been very politically active. Now, this was Lula's fourth time in trying to get elected as president. So he was determined to get in, and his party were confident that he was the person to bring them to power. But he hadn't got in, and the party hadn't got in, probably because they were too radical. They hadn't been willing to make concessions. So it was at this point, really, that there was a real dramatic change in policy. And the PT Party, Lula, wrote a very open letter to the public of Brazil and promised a certain level of continuity. They promised to come more to the center, and they promised that they wouldn't bring in radical reforms. So on this ticket, Lula got elected, and we had the Workers' Party come in. So the Workers' Party, to a certain extent, left behind some of their radical left policies. They maintained the economic policy almost intact from Cardoso's time. They maintained a lot of the social policies, and particularly the ones that were working, and scaled them up. And they also introduced some new ones. So in fact, it's this continuity which actually led to a lot of long-term results. So in terms of Lula's leadership, well, again, he had to make unholy alliances. He made a lot of alliances with the agricultural lobby, which was quite surprising when a lot of his support had come from the landless movement and smallholder farmers. Lula was a very pragmatic leader. He was a great negotiator. Again, like Cardoso, he had to make these agreements with all these parties to get things done. And he was also very charismatic. So the cornerstone of their policy and approach has been the zero hunger strategy. So the idea, and this is what the mandate was as well when Lula was elected, was that every Brazilian should be able to have 3 meals a day. No one should go hungry. And this was actually a very simple narrative and one that everyone could agree to. It wasn't talking about inequality, about taking from the wealthy. It was talking about giving a bit more to people at the bottom of the spectrum. So what Lula brought in, one of the most significant policy changes was increasing the minimum wage. Now, the minimum wage had been incredibly low throughout history and throughout Cardoso's time as well. And so consistently throughout this period, he raised the minimum wage. This brought immense opportunities to people at the bottom, bringing a lot more wealth. Of course, people at the bottom of the income spectrum tend to spend more of their money in their local areas. So this really generated a big multiplier effect. What Lula also did, which I mentioned, was he expanded social policies. So Bolsa Familia did exist in a form before, by coming through from Cardoso, like I explained. And Bolsa Familia is very famous in terms of paying families so their children go to school and are vaccinated, and has been incredibly successful. What Lula's administration did is they massively scaled this up. They increased immensely the amount of people receiving this money. They still have a long way to go, but they also targeted it much more clearly. So really, these policies show that there is a certain level of continuity carrying on, but an expansion of things that were successful.